Hey adventurers, in this video we're describing the villain phase of the Sands of Shurax. The Ravager is a titanic creature that has returned to the world after 1,000 generations of slumber. The Sands of Shurax villain phase is broken into 3 acts. During this phase of each game turn, the Ravager will either appear on the board, stay in its place, or dive back underground, leaving behind a remnant in its place. When the Ravager dives back underground, gigantic crystals are torn from its hide and become deposited into great towering structures. These massive crystal towers amplify light like a lens, baking the earth each day. Remnants are 3 hex map pieces that are placed on the board each time the Ravager disappears. These map tiles are 2-sided. One side contains a crystal tower and the other does not. Each time you place a new remnant, place a crystal tower side up. Let's take a look at Ravager Nodes. Each map piece contains Ravager Nodes, small numbers that designate an area of 3 hexes matching the shape of the remnants. These are possible locations for the Ravager to appear. Hot tile nodes are numbered 1 through 3, with the 4th showing the hex icon. Quadrant and large hex tile nodes are numbered 1 through 5, with the 6th showing the hex icon. When the Ravager appears, you'll roll either a 4-sided die or the 6-sided die to determine its location on the board. All 3 hexes surrounded by the Ravager node are considered its boss location. Remnants may not stack on top of one another, so that means the Ravager may only appear on a hot tile once, but may appear on the quadrants or hex tiles more than once. Let's take a closer look at the acts. The Ravager appears and submerges below ground in different ways during each act. The below table shows where the Ravager can appear and the sequence in which it does so. During the villain phase of the first game turn, the group will roll a 4-sided die. If you roll a hex, Act 1 begins. Each subsequent turn, drop the value needed to trigger Act 1 by 1. For example, on the second turn, Act 1 begins on a roll of a 3 or hex. On the third, it will begin on a roll of 2 3 or hex. During Act 1, the Ravager only appears in the wastes, but may appear in any location in Acts 2 and 3. The game turn sequence column shows the cycle in which it appears. For instance, during Act 1, the Ravager appears on the first game turn, pauses on the second, then disappears back underground on the third. During Act 2, the Ravager appears on the first game turn and then disappears back underground on the second. In Act 3, the Ravager simply appears in a new location each and every game turn. Act 2 begins when the number of remnants on the board equals at least half the number of hot tiles revealed. Act 3 begins when there are 12 or more remnants on the board, or if you cannot place a remnant on the board. When the Ravager appears, place it on the board based on the current act. In Act 1, the Ravager will only appear in the wastes. When it first appears, place it on the initial hot tile or on a random adjacent one if a remnant already exists there. Until Act 2 begins, the Ravager will continue to appear on adjacent hot tiles in the wastes. In Acts 2 and 3, the Ravager can appear anywhere on the board. Locate the hero's position. If a Ravager node is available on the map tile they share, the Ravager appears there. If a node is unavailable, it appears on a random adjacent map tile instead. If there are no adjacent map tiles in play, the Ravager appears in a random quadrant instead. So how do we determine which map tile the Ravager appears on? Each time the Ravager appears, you'll move its position on the board. To determine a map tile randomly, determine the Ravager's last location, then roll the wander die, checking to see if an available map tile exists in the resulting direction. If it does, roll the applicable die and place the Ravager miniature centered on that resulting Ravager node. If no location exists, roll the wander die again until you gain an available direction. So what if the Ravager appears on the hero's location? If it appears on the group's location during Acts 1 or 2, or if the group happens to wander into it, the group may choose to face it in combat or flee. If the group chooses to flee, move the group 1 hex, only 1 hex, away from the Ravager in a direction of your choice. During Act 3, the heroes cannot flee from the Ravager in this way. Instead, you'll have to initiate combat with the creature and flee from it rolling your navigate skill normally. When the Ravager disappears back under the earth, we remove the Ravager from the board and replace it with a random remnant crystal tower face up. When the remnant is placed on the map, all hexes it covers are considered to be destroyed. It is possible for the Ravager to destroy event locations like discoveries, caravansaries, oases, or even the city-states. Did we mention remnants are dangerous? These are radioactive, desolate places. Each hero gains the irradiated condition while in a remnant. Additionally, all heroes who gain the irradiation condition may also gain a mutation. While dangerous, remnants are not all bad. The heroes can harvest Ravager Crystals from a crystal tower. These crystals can be used to help fulfill one of 4 endgame scenarios. Each time you're on a crystal tower location during the event phase, you'll roll a 4-sided die and gain the result in Ravager Crystals. Additionally, if the group is in the wastes, each hero also draws a power-up card after harvesting from a crystal tower, making these locations prime targets for a power-hungry team. While the dangers are ever-present and mostly manageable, there is no escaping the increasing temperatures during Act 3. Each game turn at the beginning of the villain phase, each hero suffers energy drain equal to half the number of remnants in play. When Act 3 begins, you'd better be ready to try for that endgame scenario of your choice. That's it for now. Thanks for watching our villain phase walkthrough for the Sands of Shurax.